So Last of Us episode 3, long time. This is the one that was going to deviate from the source material. This is the one that we've been gaslit into believing that it was a good thing over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I finally saw it last night and it's absolutely trash. It's a trash fire and I won't have anything else said about it. I was tentative going into this one because I knew that it was going to be filled with garbage, and then I went into it and I couldn't believe how bad it was. And not just the fact that it was about 2 gay guys hanging out in an apocalyptic world. That wasn't it at all. It was the fact that it was done so badly. You know, a lot of people I've seen across the internet saying that they tapped out at the goofy, stupid piano scene. It was goofy and it was stupid, but it was also extremely clunky in terms of performance and in terms of script. Didn't make sense whatsoever. It really detracted and took me out of the episode. And we seem to be in this weird mass psychosis at the moment, because if you go to Twitter or you go to YouTube and you pull up any article regarding the episode 3 of The Last of Us, people are like, oh my god, this is the best episode of TV ever. People are saying it can't get any better. This is a triumph. And this has to be propagated by fear. This has to be propagated by the thoughts of being deplatformed or cancelled for saying that the episode with the gay guys, the goofy gay guys, was crap. It was shit. That's what it's got to be about, right? It has to be that deep-rooted fear. We know for 100% fact that mass psychosis, we've seen it over the last 2 or 3 years where people have lost their minds across the internet collectively. We know that mass psychosis feeds on the fear of people. And people have never been more frightened to turn out and say, that was shit. That was shit. 2 guys with a beard kissing at a piano. It looked ridiculous. It looked absolutely ridiculous. The character Bill had been set up so beautifully in this episode. I liked elements of this episode, but as soon as we got to that part, I was like, how does this define the story going forward? If, for instance, it was a female who had landed into Bill's trap and he had brought her in, the first thing people would have said was, you just spent about 3 or 4 years prepping and setting up this compound to make sure that no intruders could make it. And the first chick that comes along, you drop all your defenses and you're like, all right, come on, let's go, let's jump into bed. So forget about the homophobic title coming at me. Forget about all that sort of trash. If this was a female character who had arrived in and they had entered into this clunky dialogue at the piano, if they had entered into this awkward scenario where the kiss was so stupid and out of left field, I would say the exact same thing. But I also would go extremely hard if we got an hour and 29 minutes of that story for absolutely no reason. As many people said all across online, well, Bill was gay in the game, man. That seems to be the default copium for these losers all across the internet. Was The Last of Us Part 1 promoted and celebrated so widely because Bill was gay? No. No, it wasn't. Most people that played the game, I've played the game 3 times. Most people that have played the game don't even know it because it was such a small element. An insinuation that Bill was in a relationship with Frank didn't really affect the story. What did affect the story was how Bill's interactions with Joel and Ellie were so cool. That's what affected the story. That's why people remember Bill. That's why people are actually upset because he decided to kill himself because of a gay relationship that didn't work out. I don't get it. I absolutely don't get it. On the announcement and the first 2 episodes of The Last of Us, which I liked episode 1 and I loved episode 2, at the back of your mind, it was ticking away and you were thinking, okay, we know that Cockman is in charge of this. We know that this show is inevitably going to be woke. So can I fully give it my energy? Can I fully give it all my attention and be, okay, this is a really great show? It's 1 foot in, 1 foot out for me. And this one kind of solidifies the fact that all the worries that I had coming up to it have now come to fruition. These showrunners have literally just fucked the entire story for me. Because what they did is they took the narrative that was working, the source material, and they threw it onto the fire. And they totally changed everything. And now we have a multitude of articles saying it's actually really great that they deviated from the source material. Why? Why is that really great? I don't understand it. Why are you running cover? Why are you propagating gaslighting and actually thinking that people aren't smart enough to catch on? I don't know how smart people are. Because when you look across the internet, people are falling all over themselves saying that this is a triumph. This is the most beautiful love story ever seen. Sure, if you want to make a film like this, go and do it. Brokeback Mountain is absolutely brilliant. I watched that film. I love that film. Go and make that film. Don't fuck with The Last of Us. Don't destroy a character. An hour and a half of a gay love story? For what? What's the purpose of that? How does that move the story forward? We had 2 bookends of Ellie and Joel traveling across country, which was kind of awesome. Dialogue was good. Scenes were great. Cinematography was great. Everybody loved that. It was so premeditated that they jammed that in at the beginning and at the end, and then filled an hour and a half of some gay bullshit story that no one actually wants to see. And that's the fundamentals here. Nobody actually wants to see that. Maybe 1.5% of the population. And out of that population, how many are watching The Last of Us or actually care? So you're talking about echo chambers within Twitter and within Reddit, these vile social media outlets that breed these incel of woke left-leaning nut jobs. That's who's interested in watching it. What has happened as a result of these freaks having such a vocal voice is that normal people are frightened into this mass psychosis where they think that they have to say that it's great because there's 2 gay people in it. And if you don't say it's great, then you're somewhat homophobic and people are going to come and attack you. Well, I don't give a shit who attacks me. Simple as that. This episode was absolutely garbage. It was ridiculous for one reason and one reason alone. Because the narrative that has worked previously was binned. And it was replaced with identity politics, far left-leaning ideology, and a niche love relationship that nobody wants to see, and they know they can use it as a blanket, as a shield, because how can you come out and say that this episode was trash now? If you're a prominent filmmaker, actor, celebrity, journalist, how can you come out and say this was trash? You will be cancelled immediately. 100%. You will be called homophobic and you will be cancelled. And they are still running cover. Even if we look at this article, unfortunately it looks like The Last of Us episode 3 is being review bombed for obvious reasons. What are the obvious reasons? Obviously homophobia. That's the obvious reason, right? So when the review bombing happens the other way, that's totally organic and normal and never written about. But because the majority of the populace do not want to watch an episode about 2 middle-aged gay guys in the middle of an apocalypse when there's like battles, action scenes, and a full-blown narrative already in place that we could actually enjoy and love, that's scrapped for this story. Who does this placate? What did they get from this episode? The majority of this episode was unorganic. You had a decent performance from Nick Offerman, you had decent cinematography, you had the Max Richards Nature of Daylight jammed in there for sentimentality. It worked 100 times better in the movie Arrival. So they played on people's emotions with this episode. They placated a very small majority of mentally ill people. And now across the board, we have everybody else who might not agree with their sentiments in total terrified to open their mouth and speak about it. You're going to have to search long and hard on YouTube to find a review that says that this was a trash fire, that says that this was absolute garbage. People are terrified to speak the truth. Where does this leave us going forward for the next episode? How can you have any excitement going into the next episode after coming off this absolute and utter atrocity? Let me know your thoughts down below. Maybe share the video if you liked it and subscribe. Cheers.